Have you ever really stopped to think about how a simple leaf, just one leaf, can power our entire planet? Well, today we're diving into photosynthesis. It's the silent green engine that pretty much makes all life on Earth possible. Let's get into it. I mean, it sounds kind of like magic, right? A plant just sits there, soaks up some sun, and somehow it whips up its own food from nothing more than air and water. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back that curtain and show you the brilliant science behind the trick. At its heart, photosynthesis is really just a beautiful chemical recipe. The plant takes in energy from sunlight, it drinks up water from the ground, and it breathes in carbon dioxide from the air. Then, it mixes all that together to create glucose, which is just a sugar, basically plant food. And as a pretty amazing bonus for us, it breathes out oxygen. Okay, to really wrap our heads around this, let's use an analogy. I want you to imagine every single plant, from a massive redwood tree all the way down to a tiny blade of grass, as its own little self-sufficient solar-powered factory. And it's working 24/7 to produce energy. So if a plant is a factory, then where's all the machinery? Where does the work actually get done? Let's zoom way in and take a look at the microscopic equipment that makes this whole amazing process happen. All right, the main factory floor is this tiny little structure inside the plant cells called a chloroplast. And inside these chloroplasts, you've got chlorophyll. Now, that's the pigment that makes plants green, sure, but its real job, it's way more important. It acts just like a tiny solar panel, capturing the sun's light. This whole process of photosynthesis, it really happens in two major stages. The first stage, it's called the light reactions. And as you can probably guess from the name, it absolutely needs sunlight to work. You can think of this phase as the factory charging up all its batteries. Okay, so here's the play-by-play. First, sunlight zaps the chlorophyll, giving it a jolt of energy. This captured energy is then used to do something incredible. It literally splits water molecules apart. This releases hydrogen and, most importantly, oxygen. This whole process juices up two special molecules, ATP and NADPH, which are basically tiny rechargeable batteries storing that solar energy for the next step. And right here is one of the most profound connections that we have with plants. That oxygen that gets released when a plant splits a water molecule, that is the exact same oxygen you're breathing in right now. I mean, every single breath you take is a direct link to this amazing process happening all around us. So to bring it back to our factory analogy, the light reactions are just like hooking up a solar charger. The sunlight hits the panel, that's the chlorophyll, and the battery pack, in this case our ATP and NADPH, gets filled to the brim with usable energy, all ready to power the next phase. All right, the batteries are charged, so it's time for stage 2, the Calvin cycle. This is where the factory actually uses all that stored up energy to build its product. And what's really interesting here is that this part doesn't need direct sunlight at all to work. So the plant starts by pulling in carbon dioxide from the air. Then, using all that power from the ATP and NADP batteries, it combines that CO2 with the hydrogen that was split from the water earlier. Through a really complex cycle, it rearranges all these molecules to build its final product, glucose, sugar. Let's try another analogy. Think of a baker in a kitchen. The ATP and NADPH, that's the electricity powering the oven and the mixer. The carbon dioxide and hydrogen, well, that's your flour and sugar. The Calvin cycle is the recipe itself, and the delicious cookie that comes out at the end, that's the glucose. So what does the plant do with all this glucose it just worked so hard to make? Well, it uses it for immediate energy, it uses it to grow bigger and to repair itself, and it also stores it away for later. And that stored energy, that's what we're eating when we have a potato or a carrot or an apple. Okay, so we've seen the how, but our connection to the food plants make is just the beginning of the story. So now let's talk about the much bigger why. Why is this one little cellular process so fundamentally important to every single one of us? It really all boils down to 3 critical things. First, photosynthesis is the foundation of pretty much the entire food chain on the planet. Plants make their own food, and then every animal relies on that energy, whether it eats the plant directly or eats another animal that did. Second, like we saw, it produces the oxygen we all need to breathe. And third, it acts like the planet's lungs, pulling carbon dioxide out of the air and helping to regulate our climate. And that brings us right back to where we started. This one simple idea really captures the whole thing. Plants are these elegant, super efficient, and absolutely essential factories running on nothing but sunlight, creating the very foundation for life as we know it. It's just incredible. So, I'll just leave you with this thought. The next time you walk outside, feel the sun on your face and take a deep breath of fresh air. Just remember that silent green engine working all around you and ask yourself, what would our world even be without it?